Thank you, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. It's so wonderful. It's a delight to see such wonderful people here. And thanks for coming at such a short notice. Actually, this was not the intent of the original press conference. Since the film released, almost 2 or 3 weeks after the film, when it really became a historical success, a lot of foreign correspondents wanted to talk to me. And so they contacted Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, and they wanted to hold a press conference at Foreign Correspondents Club. Since I was traveling, I was committed, and there was no time before the 3rd of May. The president of Foreign Correspondents Club called me, and he was insisting that we do it as soon as possible. They wanted to do it last month, but I was not free, so therefore 5th of May was decided. And only after a lot of discussions, we confirmed it, and a very senior Z executive flew down specifically for this, met him, worked out all the logistics, and the monies were paid, all receipts were taken. But day before, Manoj ji baithe hain, please. No. It's an honor you are here. Manoj Raghuvanshi ji is here. Without his reporting in 1990, we wouldn't have known anything about Kashmir genocide. So it's a great honor. One of those brave, courageous journalists. I'm proud of you. Aaiye baithiye. Manoj ji, aaiye baithe. So, day before was the World Press Freedom Day. On that day, I got a call from the president. In fact, they gave a call to Z and they put me on a conference call. And he said that this needs to be cancelled because some major media players, international media players, I want to underline the word international. And during this course, whenever I talk about media, I am focusing only on international media. I have nothing to say against our own media. These people put their foot down and they said they will not allow anybody who talks about Kashmir genocide inside that campus. And they threatened to do an en masse resignation. He told me, since we are talking freely and honestly, I don't want to hide any fact, and I'm not a very politically correct person, you know by now. He categorically mentioned 3 names: New York Times, Al Jazeera, and Bloomberg. There are a couple of more names which emerged later on. Yesterday, between the course of these 2 days, some members of Foreign Correspondent Club have also put it on social media in different posts, the names of the people. It's for anybody to see. And it is really unfortunate that this anti-free speech, anti-truth activity took place in a government-owned swanky bungalow, or whatever that place is, that club. And just for your information, this property is right in front of the Supreme Court, which is the highest temple of justice. And the film, The Kashmir Files, its theme is right to justice, and it was denied the press conference, which was initiated by the Foreign Correspondents Club. And also it happened on the World Press Freedom Day. Same day, they also published lots of reports how India's press freedom index is going down. And it gives me reason to believe that is a propaganda. In fact, the freedom of press is curbed by the international press, at least in my case. The reason I'm here is to discuss 2 things with you. That what this film has achieved for India, and I am only talking specifically about India. I'm a film professional, you are a media professional, but before that, above that, we are Indians. And I have reasons to believe, and there is a very, very clear-cut, obvious design that some agenda-driven media, international media houses, who are actually political activists, how they are trying to interfere in India's politics and dictate their terms, and how they are threatening India's sovereignty. It is for everyone to see. I told you few names before this. This film, actually, people who do not do research, for them this film released on 11th of March. But in reality, we started screening this film in November last year in US, and it was open forum. It was not it was not restricted. Anybody could see it, and we showed it in 16 different cities, and every single city have offices of these 5-6 media, global media players. We invited them, we begged them, we pleaded. We literally begged to come and see the film and report the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus. None of them came. But when the film, after its release in 4 or 5 weeks, it became a historical success. When the whole world started talking about it. When the blacks, whites, Jews, Hispanics, Asians, Yazidis, Pakistanis, Israelis, Indonesians, when all of them started writing good things about this film or making videos on YouTube and everywhere, they realized that it was denting their narrative. And that's when I thought they conspired, because one after the another, I can name all of them. I reply only on voice recordings these days just to safeguard myself. One after another, within 7-8 days, almost every major player who malign India's image internationally without checking out the truths started calling me. And their line of question was only Hindu-Muslim. Nobody, not even one, bothered to ask me that all those victims who you have interviewed, can we talk to anyone? Not even one tried to ask me the facts I have shown are right or wrong. There were no line of question which was related to the film. They had only 2 words, and I have all of them as evidence. If the need be, I can make them public. Only 2 things they talk about: Muslims and Modi. And which gives me clear reason to believe that they are agenda driven. And whatever reply you give them, they don't care. Ultimately, they just pick up one word or one line and they put it there, and you are wrongly presented. And all these articles, right from Time to BBC to Al Jazeera to CNN to The Economist, have not spoken about the film. They have not reviewed the film. In fact, they have tried to say why this film is being made at all. The people who failed to report the genocide are upset with a film being made on the genocide. And they don't have the guts to ask the same questions to Mr. Spielberg, who made Schindler's List. So, I want to tell you that under this design, under this conspiracy, our press conference was cancelled. I was advised not to speak about it. I was told by a very senior journalist who I respect a lot. He said, if you do that, everybody will get united. And the same thing happened with Press Club of India. After confirming everything, they also cancelled last evening. So I just want to bring a couple of things to your notice. There are 3-4 major allegations against this film, which are coming from these major agenda-driven foreign media players. Number one, in all their articles they write, this is a piece of fiction, and they write this is a piece of fiction because it is in our disclaimer. In fact, the Time has falsely reported that the film begins with a disclaimer which says this is a piece of fiction. I want you to understand this design. The disclaimer is here in front of me, CBFC certified, and we showed this CBFC certified disclaimer everywhere in the world where we have shown the film. The first line of it begins like this: this film is based on true incidents as recorded in video testimonials of the victims of Kashmir genocide. It goes on to say, to respect the dead and the victims' families. We have changed the name and timelines. It is a very ethical thing to do. All responsible filmmakers do that. If you see some of the greatest true stories, you hide the names. In the end, there is a technical line which Indian courts force you to put. CBFC forces you to put. It is not out of choice, which says that filmmaker does not take any responsibility for any kind of inaccuracy. And this is assumed from them that it's a fictional story. And since it's reported in Time and all major, these 5-6 usual suspects, therefore some people, genocide deniers, people who want to cancel this genocide story, have gone and also vandalized the Wikipedia page, and they have written, this film is based, it's a fictional story. Muslim police officers dying in Kashmir is a true story. Not even one Kashmiri Pandit family living in Kashmir today is a fake story. This is the narrative they are trying to create. It's for you to judge why it is being done. With all due respect, something which all the governments, I am underlining all the governments, all the civil societies, all human rights commissions, all empathy ambassadors, and especially these global media should have done, which is in any civilized society to record the testimonies of the victims. All the testimonies of Jew survivors were recorded. In every war and any crime like this, the foreign media runs first and they record testimonies of the victims, which everybody failed to do collectively. 2 resource-less filmmakers did. Today, we are the only people in the entire world who have testimonies of the surviving victims of Kashmiri Hindu genocide. And we are very proud of this. And they are very ashamed of this. And that's why it reflects their failure and they want to destroy the credibility of this film. Second biggest allegation against us is that this film is funded by the government of India. It's very hilarious, it's very childish, I shouldn't be answering it, but I want to. This film was in the making for last 4 years. Not secretly, but openly. Every day's account, if you go to our social media posts of our I Am Buddha and my own, it's all out. We have reported every single thing we did in the process of researching and making this film. In fact, the name of this film was crowdsourced. When we got this idea to make this film, I put out on social media that if you have any title, give, and this title actually has come from the people. Then we invited people to participate in the research process. A lot of research was crowdsourced. GKPD facilitated this entire research all over the world. We travel all over the world. Everybody knew about this film. Nobody alleged that this is government funded or government supported. The film became a historical success in the first 4 days. By Tuesday, this was undisputable that this film is going to create a history. Till then, not even one person said it's government supported. But on Wednesday, I think, I'm not right, Tuesday evening or Wednesday, the Prime Minister spoke about it in a different context. And suddenly, it became government-funded film. Now I want to ask this question, was the genocide of 1990, was it also funded by the current government? Why was that not reported? Which means, in India, see, it's very important for you to understand, before my film, at least 7 to 8 major films were made on Kashmir terrorism. And they all big production houses, biggest of the stars, Fiza, Fana. I say it all the times, I'm repeating once more. Fiza, Fina, Mission Kashmir, Dil Se, Haider, and there are lots of 7, 8 films. Few I have cleared in CBFC. They were stuck for a long time. I have cleared them. Half Widows and these kind of films. They were also cleared. So I'm not talking about smaller films which go to film festivals. I'm talking major films. All those films were set in the period of 90s, the troubled period between 85 to early 90s. None of them film, not even one film, mentioned anything about Hindus forget Hindu genocide, as if Hindus never lived in that land. If a foreigner picks up these 8 films and watches them as a history lesson, they will never ever come to know that even one Hindu lived over there. And all the films justified terrorists. So I want to ask these great players like Time and New York Times, when they praise these films, were these films sponsored by terrorists? Would you say Haider, Fiza and Fana and Mission Kashmir, they were funded by terrorist organizations because they were justifying terrorism? And obviously it is written by people who have not seen the film. And they have an agenda and they have a narrative and they want to reinforce that narrative because the film is critical of the current government also. आप में से फिल्म देखी है किसी ने? Do you remember before the climax when Bitta is talking, what does it say? Can you say that in a funded film? And it is so embarrassing and shameful that a filmmaker has to come and justify himself because they are very powerful people and they want to create an anti-India narrative. Then there is an international political campaign against it. A very well-known leftist, far leftist I would say, a far leftist website of India, the day film was released, since then every single day they wrote an article on this film. They never did it before, ever in the past about any film. And their language and these global media players' language is exactly the same. It's just paraphrased, but the thought is the same. They blame us of Islamophobia. And this is one issue I very openly, frankly want to talk about. And after that, if you're not convinced, you can ask me as many questions as you want. I categorically put on record that Islamophobic or Islamophobia is being used as a political weapon against my film under an international political conspiracy. The film is actually anti-terrorism. The film does not use even once the word Muslim. The film does not use the word Pakistan or Pakistani. Why do they assume it's anti-Muslim? It's an anti-terrorism film. Why it is not Buddhist phobic? Why it's not Jain phobic? Why it's not Christian phobic? And above all, my question is, why it is not terror phobic? Why they are shying away from the word terrorism? And why somebody talks about terrorism, why do they say it's Islamophobic? And why Fiza and Fana and Haider, which were about terrorists, why they were not Islamophobic? Which means there is a unwritten law that if you justify terrorists, then you are a messiah of humanity. But if you talk against terrorism, you are Islamophobic. Do you understand the design? Just about my film now. The first scene of the film actually is about the brotherhood of Hindus and Muslims, without underlining it. A Hindu boy, Shiva, is being beaten up by bad people. A good Abdul comes and saves his life. After that, old Pushkar Nath saves life of Abdul. People who do not know, one of the major, in fact the most important producer of this film is a Muslim. Is he Islamophobic? Are you saying the person, the Muslim who has produced this film is Islamophobic? Not even one media person has gone and researched this. And I feel very hurt about this. Most of our unit was full of Muslim, our crew, most of it was Muslim. In Kashmir, 100% of our crew was Muslims. One of the most important scenes of the film, where you see the hero, the protagonist, meets another boy and they talk on shikara. I had requested a Kashmiri Muslim activist from Kashmir Valley to write that scene. I said, you must have representation, because in the film, hero asked, tell me about Kashmir. Vivek Agnihotri writing that scene will always be half truth. Therefore, I want you to write it. And he wrote the entire scene. I did not even change comma or full stop. That scene, we made sure, is being enacted by a Kashmiri Muslim activist boy in Kashmir. It's very embarrassing that I have to come and say all these things, but I want to expose these people who use Islamophobia, that jargon, that term, as a political weapon against us. And in USA, we were there for 2 months. The film was shown in 16 cities. That entire campaign, that logistics, every single thing of that campaign was led by one person, and he is a Muslim. The opening screening, the premiere of this film, the first premiere of this film, was done in one of the oldest theaters in New York, owned by a Pakistani Muslim. He introduced us on stage. In closing, he hugged us and he said, this is one of the best films he has seen in his life, and he vows to support this film. Till date, he keeps promoting this film. The song which has become a rage now, Hum Dekhenge, we bought it from one of the greatest poets of our century, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, from Faiz House in Pakistan. The song before the interval, Roshe Roshe, you have to hear this story so you'll understand about our intentions versus their intentions. I saw a small video, 30-second clip by a tourist of a Kashmiri Muslim singer in Pahalgam. I sent my team, we flew him down to Bombay, and we recorded that song. He has become my brother forever. His name is Noor Muhammad, if you want to do further research. When we were in Kashmir shooting, we invited all the young Kashmiri boys and girls to understand their point of view. They had dinner with us. It was a big group. The photos are out on social media. Because they had dinner with us, they were threatened. Those girls, Muslim girls, had to disappear, and fatwa was issued on my name. Am I Islamophobic? You see these people in glasses? These people, they are CRPF people. I have been given security by the intelligence agencies because they fear for my life. Why those 8 or 9 big producers and directors who made films on Kashmir terrorism, they never had to bother for their life? Which means in this country, if you talk about the pain and suffering of thousands of Kashmiri Hindu victims, your life is threatened. But if you talk or make pro-terrorist films, then you can walk freely anywhere. This is a very sad state of affairs. Today, all world leaders are talking about terrorism. Everybody is talking against terrorism. The biggest threat to humanity is terrorism. Are they wrong? And what really gives me a lot of hope, hundreds and hundreds of Kashmiri Muslim boys and girls are openly writing in favor of this film on social media. You can just, people don't do research, just go and check and you'll find hundreds of them. I keep retweeting. Few days ago, you must have seen my video talking to young Kashmiri boys, Kashmiri Muslim boys and girls. I have never used this term before in my life, Kashmiri Muslim. This is the first time I'm doing it. And I'm feeling very pained and very, very sad. But it is important that I expose the agenda of these foreign players. You must have seen my long conversation with Kashmiri Muslim boys and girls 3-4 days ago. I called them to my room, I sat down with them, we chatted for a long time, and then I invited them to join in my next film, which they happily did. They were trolled, threatened, and they were told, if you ever step back in Kashmir, you won't be alive. All these Muslim young boys and girls who see hope, who are talking about brotherhood, peace and harmony, this is threatening and rattling these few people who have used Islamophobia as their political weapon to shut anybody who genuinely wants humanity, peace, love and brotherhood. Because they are not interested in healing, they are interested in creating more fault lines, they are interested in creating more conflict just so that they can stop India's rise in the world geopolitical scenario. After this, I leave it to your conscience to judge about our film. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivek ji. I invite Pallavi ji to tell us about what transpired in terms of the film's achievements in the last 2 months. Pallavi ji.
Good evening, everyone. And once again, thanks for coming here today. I want to take you through some of the highlights of our film. Everyone knows how the film was received by people. But sometimes, in the course of other things, we sometimes forget small little things which are extremely important. And that's why I would like to read out a few things to you. The Kashmir Files is the first Indian film based on video testimonials of the first generation victims of Kashmiri Hindu genocide, which is the longest and continuous genocide of a minority community in the history of humanity. The Kashmir Files is perhaps the only mainstream film in the history of cinema which was shown pre-release to more than 10,000 people across the world, spread over 24 cities without fearing the commercial repercussions. It is important to mention this because no filmmaker worth his salt would show a film to thousands of people due to the fear of, bad word or mixed reaction that may go out. We were absolutely confident because our film is based on truth and only the truth. These screenings were organized by 36 humanitarian organizations ranging from World Sikh Organization to Telugu Association, to Jews Association, to even Physicians Association. 36 organizations with proven track record in public service, spreading the message of peace, love, and humanity. This is one achievement every Indian, or actually I would say that every human being can be proud of. The Kashmir Files is the first Indian film which was given a congressional reception at the Capitol in the USA. We were also invited to prestigious scholarly academic institutions like the Harvard Club, University of Massachusetts, Georgia Tech University, Universities of Denver and Houston, and Stanford University. We were also invited to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and Martin Luther King Memorial in Atlanta. I'm extremely proud to inform you that now we are being invited to many prestigious universities in Europe, including Oxford, Cambridge, Warwick University. We are also invited to speak at the British Parliament and many other prestigious places in Netherlands, Germany, Israel, Geneva, where we are invited to to talk at the World Human Rights Organizations. Our Europe tour is centered around the theme, India and her role in world peace and humanity. The Kashmir Files, in our knowledge, is the only film from India which has been given proclamations from various states and cities of USA, acknowledging and endorsing the inhuman genocide of the Kashmiri Hindus. The Kashmir Files is the most reviewed film on the internet, with reviews coming from all across the world, from white Americans, African Americans, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Yazidis, Pakistanis, Buddhists, and people from almost all faiths, ethnicities, and nationalities. And this has reinforced our belief that empathy and humanity cuts across religion and politics. The Kashmir Files has opened up international markets where no Indian film of this size has ever been released. And this wasn't planned by us. It was done on popular demand by the people. And it ran to jam-packed houses in Kenya, Mozambique, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Japan, and even Lithuania and Estonia, where there are hardly any Indians. This truly has become a people's film. And it is still running successfully in its 9th week in the USA. And it has already crossed its million mark long ago. And this is an honor which even the big-budgeted top star films can't achieve. The Kashmir Files released in one theater in Kerala, but by popular demand increased to 120 screens within a few days and ran full for over 4 weeks. Same in Tamil Nadu and Bengal, where Hindi films of this size don't even release. And I must mention here that what really saddens us is the fact that the film made on Kashmir cannot be shown in Kashmir because there are no movie theaters there anymore. And it's a very, very sad commentary. And I hope that humanitarian media would focus on this issue here where, the free speech is curbed in Kashmir. On return on investment basis, the Kashmir Files, as some of you may know, was made in 15 crores and has done over 350 crores business worldwide and is still running successfully. Also, our tickets were very cheap. But had they been as expensive as the current South Indian blockbusters, then Kashmir Files would have crossed many more milestones. It released in Israel last week and it's running to full house with hundreds of teary-eyed Jews, and their reactions are pouring in every day on the internet. It's releasing in the Philippines on the 6th. When the film released, the IMDb rating was 10 on 10, but then many genocide deniers tried to cancel our ratings, and IMDb used some strange formula under pressure and locked our ratings to 8.3. When people kept voting 10 on 10, it still wouldn't increase. Even so, 8.3 is still a very, very high rating. In the history of world cinema, the Kashmir Files is the only film which has found unprecedented honor of becoming a mass movement where even the poorest of poor have been distributing free tickets to the youth. And this is something that entire humanity can be proud of. And just to give an unprecedented example, Times Square in New York is known to be the most prestigious and the most expensive advertising site. When Vivek and I reached US in 2019 for our research, we had seen a hoarding of free Kashmir. And that was the time when we thought to ourselves how good it would be if Kashmir Files can be featured on the Times Square. Last year in November and December, when we showed this film in more than 16 cities, the people who saw the film, the fans of this film, collected money on their own. And for the first time in Times Square, the entire map of Kashmir was shown. Then the billboard of the Kashmir Files was on, in which you can see the entire map of Kashmir. And never in the history has it happened, because in the West, they always take out, dono side ke sar nikal dete hain. This entire map of Kashmir was on full display for 2 days, 26th January, our Republic Day, and 27th of January. And this was done by all the fans. And I can narrate many firsts, but we should come back to the purpose of this film. The first purpose of making this film was to make the world acknowledge that the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus indeed happened. Acknowledgement is the first step to justice. We achieved it globally and more than we ever expected. Our second purpose was to heal the Kashmiri Hindu community, where the real empathy which is a real empathy and humanity. And you must have seen hundreds of videos where victims are hugging us and saying that their healing has now begun. But in the end, I would like to read out 2 letters from the families of 2 victims whose heart-wrenching stories you have seen in the film. The first one is BK Ganju's story, where he was killed in a rice drum and his wife was made to eat the blood-soaked rice. And the other of Girija Tikku, who was unfortunately gang raped first and then cut alive on a saw machine. So the first one is from BK Ganju's family. Respected Vivek ji and Pallavi ji, my name is Diksha Ganju. I am the daughter of late Shri BK Ganju, whose gruesome killing was highlighted in the movie, The Kashmir Files, which made people around the world cry. His death was completely horrifying and traumatic for us, especially my mother, who has become a physical wreck after it. We decided to bury this pain in our heart and never talked about it, or even my dad, as an act of self-preservation. But after 32 years, this movie forced us to relive that pain. It is extremely hard, but at the same time, I believe it is helping us heal. This movie made it possible for us to celebrate my dad's life and sacrifice. I would like to express my gratitude from the bottom of my heart to both of you, as well as the entire Kashmir Files team. It would not have been possible without your efforts. And the second message is from Girija Tikku's family. We watched your movie today. My late sister Girija Tikku was a brave girl, and we never discussed or even talked about her at home. The whole family was going through depression and guilt of not being able to do anything for her. Few years back, Sunanda Vashisht spoke about her brutal killing in DC. Now you've showed a sacrifice in this movie. We've started talking about her within our family. Your movie is starting the healing process within the traumatized family, within the traumatized families. And I think this message is probably bigger than Oscar for us. And so now I leave it to your conscience and your good judgment. If this is not healing and humanity, then what is? Thank you very much.
कश्मीर फाइल्स के विरुद्ध कई आक्षेप लगे हैं। ये भी बताया गया है कि ये रिविजनिस्ट है, स्टैटिस्टिक्स सही नहीं है, और अब जो जेनोसाइड कह रहे हो वैसा हुआ नहीं था, नंबर्स देखिए, आरटीआई से ये निकला है, वो निकला है। तो इन सभी जो भी ये एलिगेशंस हैं, फॉर दैट आई वुड इनवाइट Shri Utpal Kaul. He is an activist, a celebrated publisher, and the international coordinator of Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora to address those angles.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for coming, and Vivek ji, thank you very much for inviting me to talk to media here. Let me at the very first thank on behalf of Kashmiri Pandit community, on behalf of Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, to Vivek Agnihotri ji and Pallavi ji for this great movie. This has shaken us. This movie has shaken us. It is once again we have seen what happened to our my community in 89 and 90. 20,000 houses burnt, 1,660 people killed in few months, 450 temples burnt and destroyed. And do you think it is not genocide? And what is then genocide? If you talk of my family, I lost my 7 family members, my friends, and 1 boy from my office. He was stabbed. If this is not genocide, what is genocide? For last 32 years, we tried our best. We organized nearly 10,000 corner meetings, press conferences, met leaders, associations, telling us this is genocide. Please listen to us. Do some redressal for this genocide. We went to National Human Rights Commission and fought there for 8 years. And thank you very much to his PN Lekhi ji, peace to his soul. He fought with us for 8 years. And at the end, the former Chief Justice of India, Venkat Chalaya, who was the chairman of Human Rights Commission, National Human Rights Commission, he said that Kashmiri Pandits suffered akin to genocide. There is no word akin to genocide, it is a genocide. And I testify, my community testify, because global Kashmiri Pandit diaspora, Kashmiri Pandits gave 750 interviews to Pallavi ji and Vivek ji and to his team. I guarantee it on behalf of my community that it is 800% true. Each and every event, whatever is shown in this film is real. It is not fiction. If I am standing here, sitting here in front of you, it is real. So Kashmir file is real. Every event, everything is real. We tried many times to meet the acclaimed media channels. I may call BBC and CNN and other world channels, Al Jazeera. But they have nothing for us. They wanted to promote separatist narrative, jihadi narrative of Kashmir. They don't want to talk about our genocide as if we don't exist. But we are 100% educated people. As you know, Kashmiri Pandits are from generations 100% educated. We challenge them and we'll make sure that this, our story, our genocide, will reach to each and every corner of the world. And I assure Vivek Agnihotri ji, Pallavi ji said that 1 million has crossed, and one time it will be nearly billion. Because it is for the first time in India that this movie has come, which is on a topic which people want to know, people want to understand what is happening. And some people think it is future of India if we don't act now. So Vivek Agnihotri has done greatest karma, not only for Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, or for Kashmir, but he has done greatest karma for India. Now, our big job, I was very much excited when Vivek Agnihotri ji said that we are organizing press conference on 5th in Foreign Correspondents Club. I was very much excited that now is the opportunity to talk to foreign media who are nearly 100, 200 people here. But I was shocked when he told me that it is cancelled. It is cancelled because of design. They want to promote anti-India narrative. They want to promote anti-Modi narrative. That is not my topic here. My topic is to tell to the world what happened in Kashmir. And it is not only victimhood. It is real. It is real. And nobody still believes that something like this will happen in this 21st century in civilized world, that one of our daughters will be cut in Ari se usko kata jayega with the saw. And 4 people, my uncle, auntie, they were watching Mahabharat and they were killed there. Well, don't you think this is genocide? Then what is genocide? What are these foreign correspondents doing here? They cannot see this is trauma. If there is some incident in village, somewhere in India, they will play it so big on CNN and on Al Jazeera and other televisions, defaming India. But exodus of 500,000 people is no story for them. It has no value. Because as if Hindus doesn't exist, as if Kashmiri Pandits doesn't exist. Kashmir is the fountainhead of Indian culture for 10,000 years. It has produced Vedas, Upanishads, great Abhinav Gupta. And these foreign correspondents must know that on Abhinav Gupta and Kashmir Shaivism, 100 universities world over are doing research on this, on philosophy or Sarvastivada or Buddhism. But they won't talk about that. They have some design, and they want to promote that kind of design, which is anti-India, I may say frankly, anti-Hindu. And so they don't see this, our story. If you go on UN Charter, what it says about the genocide and human rights, our case is fit, which could, United Nations could take it. But let all Indian media take the call. I'll unite and expose all these elements who are not doing professional job. It is not professional. A journalist's job or media job is to tell the true story. They should come forward and narrate what happened in Kashmir, how everything collapsed. As Agnihotri ji said, that we even Kashmiris, we never said anything against Muslims in all these 32 years. We never said anything about Islam, but we will say that terrorists, jihadi elements are responsible for our genocide. Is it a joke that 500,000 people left Kashmir? So this nation has to rise. All media people has to rise and expose these elements who are bent upon defaming India, promoting separatists, and promoting anti-India narrative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Utpalji. 32 years ago, a genocide was perpetrated against our community. Vivek ji, when he was first approached by a Global Kashmiri Pandit diaspora to make this movie, said, "You all look so successful. Who is going to believe what happened to you?" Even today, when you look at so many members of my community here, we all are successful. We rebuilt ourselves. We have been resilient. But there are tears unshed behind our smiles. There has been no opportunity for collective grieving and healing. PTSD is rampant in our community, and there is much more in terms of the impact on physiology and psychology of the entire community, individuals and the group. I'd request Dr. Shefalika Kotwal, who is joining us from the United Kingdom today, to talk about those aspects. Shefalika ji.
Thank you, Dimple. Firstly, thank you all for coming here in such huge numbers. As Dimple said, I'm the GKPD coordinator for United Kingdom. Now, when Vivek ji said that he's going to hold a press conference with foreign correspondents, I was very happy, to be honest, because I thought, okay, this is our opportunity to talk collectively to the foreign media. Now, as GKPD's media coordinator as well, I can't tell you how much time we spend every day refuting all these allegations by the foreign media, whether it's Washington Post or the Times or the BBC, because every day there's an article coming, this movie is untrue, this didn't happen, this is Islamophobic. And because we've taken it upon ourselves to collectively refute every single allegation. So that's why I was happy that together we'll answer all their questions, but that wasn't to be. Not that I hold the foreign media in any special regard. You know, we have stalwarts like Manoji here. You know, I was 18 when I was reading his articles in 1990. He was one of the very few correspondents, I must say, who covered it. So when we have stalwarts like him, we don't need foreign press. But like Utpalji said, we were happy, okay, let's together answer all the difficult questions. And we were looking forward to it. And then we got this shocker that they have cancelled it. And then we got another shocker that our own press club has cancelled it as well. But anyway, that's in the past. We are here today, and you all are here, and this is our chance to talk about it. Now, as Dimple said, I am a psychiatrist by profession. You know, ours is a traumatized community. we are, you see us sitting here, we've got high-end jobs, some of us, and we are all over the world. But that was in Majburi, when you are thrown out of your homeland, what do you do? I went to United Kingdom to get my specialist training. Someone went to US, someone went to Australia. What do you do when you're thrown out of your home overnight? But I was still the lucky one. Unlike Utpalji, I didn't lose my first, by my parents or my brothers. But I have friends whose father was hacked into 50 pieces and thrown in the dustbin. So I have grown up, I have lived my life being blighted. My entire life is blighted by these stories, if I can tell you. And then as a psychiatrist, I'm in a foreign country. PTSD is a very well-recognized phenomenon, especially in the West. It's not that recognized here. But our community, we have got something called collective PTSD. It's impossible not to have PTSD when you have gone through what we all have gone through. So it is almost impossible to come out of this trauma unscathed. And that's what has happened to us. Now, Vivekji, obviously we are indebted to him for life. The reason is for 32 years, nobody talked about it. There was media whitewash. Nobody wrote about it, nobody talked about it. As individuals, we were left, I have written books on it. I mean, not major books, but I've published books, talked about my stories. It's only because as an individual, I took it upon myself that I need to let the world know. But there was no help coming, from filmmakers or major foreign correspondents or whatever, or Indian press. And now we have someone who has been brave enough to write, to talk about us, to make a film on us. This is a watershed moment for our community. And that's why you see us, you see us following him around. He's like a messiah for us. So he has a press conference. If I had to come, I was here on holiday anyway, but if I had to come from London to accompany him, I would have come. Because this is our investment in the movie. Because like I said, for the first time in 32 years, this has happened to us. Now, coming back to my specialization, like I said, collective PTSD is real, And one of the things in PTSD, what you have to do, you have to talk about it. That is the healing process. You have to talk about it, but you have to talk about it in a safe space and amongst people who empathize with you, not people who are hostile to you. So you just heard Pallavi ji read the letter. So we've had thousands of people like Mr. Ganju's daughter, who have now come out and who are now telling us their story 32 years later. Now, the least the media or whatever foreign media can do is to give them a safe space to talk about it. And not every time someone says, oh, this happened to me, someone jumps on them and says, no, this didn't happen to you. No, this is all fiction. And the whole thing about the vilifying a particular community, that I think is laughable. Because nowhere in the movie, any community has been vilified. All it has shown is the truth. Yeah? So again, coming back to what has happened to us, thank you all for coming today, providing us, thank you firstly to Vivekji, of course, for providing us this safe space to talk about this. Now, the least the media can do is to support us now. You don't have to do some miracles. All you need to do is to say, yes, you have told your story. It is a true story. You have our support in whatever way. I mean, 32 years is a long time, for things like this. What has happened, and there's no resolution for us. But every people can do is to support us. And that you all have come here, that is a big thing for us. And foreign correspondents, if there's anyone here who's from a foreign media, please do come out and ask the questions. It's not about Islamophobia. You don't say, oh, well, Jews, there was Germanophobia or whatever. People talk about Bosnia, Bosnia, Croatia. People just tell their stories. So when there's any atrocities anywhere in the world, the foreign correspondents just run there. They cover the story. They talk about it. There are debates. So I find it really hard to understand why people are trying to whitewash it. Now, I know the reason for that. The reason is because there's this thing about India. You can't criticize India. We are ruling at the top of the world. Coming from United Kingdom, I can tell you we are doing extremely well in all spheres, whatever, finance, economy, whatever. So this is the easiest thing. This is like a low-hanging fruit in India to to talk about this Hindu-Muslim binary. It does not exist, certainly not in the movie. But I think the foreign media just picks upon, because it's the easiest thing to talk about, that we'll talk about this and vilify India. So I find, I don't even talk about it. Vivek ji, obviously, he has talked about it a lot, but it's kind of laughable. We should totally avoid talking about it, yes? But what we should really do, we should talk about our story. You know, you are our voices now, because we are a very minuscule community. We are, and then we are spread. We are spread across 15 countries or 20 countries, wherever. So people of India are going to be our voice now, and this is what the movie has done. It has exponentially, collectively raised our voice. I mean, Utpalji is a publisher. He has written books on it. He has spent his whole life talking about it. But the movie has done much more. Movie has collectively, the world is now talking about us. There are obviously a few, CNN, Washington, they will come up with negative publicity, but I think we should just ignore them. And I think what these people do, they try and get people from our community. See, every community has got people who, for whatever reasons, whether there's their personal life, whether they are paid, whatever their personal biases, or they want to, because it's, people try to be left-wing or whatever, you call them liberal or whatever. So people have their own agenda. So the foreign media, what they think that by catching these people from our community and making them say things like, oh, this is not true, this didn't happen to our community, they are somehow going to justify, whatever. But that's not true. I mean, in our community, we do have like 4 or 5 people. You can count them on their fingers, but it's best to collectively ignore these people. As a community, we ignore these people. We don't talk about them. And I think the media also should ignore them. They do not represent us. They have their own compulsions. I don't want to go into details. But as a community, we disown this. Any narrative which says that the movie is fake, as a community, collectively, we are disowning this movie. Okay, so that's the thing I wanted to say. As part of GKPD, we are the intellectual research partners of the movie. As Dimple has said, we have been with Vivek ji through this journey of the last 4 years, and we are here now. We are grateful. Grateful is a very small word for us to say for Vivek ji. So it's much more than gratitude. I mean, Vivek ji is still touring. He's going to come to United Kingdom next month. He'll speak to parliamentarians there. It's because of him now we have got a voice. I mean, who's going to listen to me? If I tell my story, not even 5 people are going to listen to me. But if there's a movie, and that too a super hit movie, by a reputed filmmaker, thousands of people are going to listen to it. And that's been the success. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Shafalika ji. We will now begin with the question and answer session. It wasn't by design that the entire intervention was in English. We will now go bilingual. तो आप अपने प्रश्न हिंदी में भी पूछ सकते हैं. केवल ये निवेदन है कि हमारे पास काफ़ी समय है. कोई 30 सेकेंड्स का ऐसा प्रावधान नहीं है. आराम से अपना क्वेश्चन पूछिए, अपना नाम, अपनी पब्लिकेशन और फिर प्रश्न पूछिए. सर, मनोज.
विवेक जी, is it on? Is it on? Yeah. विवेक जी,
Hello.
Yeah. Vivek ji, first of all, my gratitude and the gratitude of the nation that you have done this phenomenal work which we needed, and for some reason, unfortunately, for 32 years, it was blocked. You have done a service which cannot be described in words. The trauma that you have just talked about, in fact, when I was the first journalist of the world to do my first story in June 89, it was done in July 89 in Newstrag, 89, 6 months before the exodus, the genocide, that terrorism will erupt in Kashmir. And since at that time, CNN and New York Times and Time and others had not done this story, or even the media here in India had not done the story, I was left alone. Despite all the proof that I gave in the story, I was completely standing alone. So it gave an opportunity to Dr. Farooq Abdullah, the then Chief Minister, to come to Delhi, meet the Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, meet the Home Minister Bhutta Singh, and tell them that Manoj is telling a lie and he should be arrested. 5 months later, Rubaiya got kidnapped. Then terrorism was formally announced. The next month, this exodus happened. Now, if anyone asks कि ये बात सही है कि गलत है, तो केवल इतना ही मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, बाकी तो आप ऐड करेंगे, मैं केवल इतना कहना चाहता हूँ कि 32 साल से एक पूरी की पूरी कम्युनिटी अपना घर, अपनी नौकरियाँ, अपने बाग बगीचे, अपने बच्चों की पढ़ाई, अपना सब कुछ छोड़ के कश्मीर घाटी से बाहर आ गई है और वापस नहीं जा पा रही है, ये कोई मामूली डर की वजह से संभव है ही नहीं. जब तक इतना ज़्यादा टेरर नहीं होगा कि वो रात में सपना भी आ जाए कि वापस जा रहे हैं तो उनका पसीना आ जाए और उनका खौफ से उनकी आंख खुल जाए, जब तक इतनी दहशत नहीं होगी तब तक इतना बड़ा एक्सोडस हो ही नहीं सकता है. बाकी आपके ऊपर.
Now let's have questions and ask questions.
Yes,
We are here.
Sir.
the gentleman in blue.
Sir.
Could we please first begin with him?
First,
It would be really nice. Let's just focus. Sir, अपना नाम बताइए और जिस पत्रिका से हैं वो बताइए.
Vivek ji, I am Pranab Prakhar from Vision Television World. I am an independent journalist. 2-3 questions. One is what you have been talking about the international publications. UNHRC has not recognized Kashmiri Pandits' exodus as refugee. Is that the reason that you see the wrongs that have been made over the decades is being camouflaged now through the eyes of religious Hindu-Muslim divide in the film? That is one question. Second is, you talked about the few publications, international publications. Does that mean the shareholding pattern of these international publications needs to be highlighted, talked about, and exposed? Is that the reason why your film is getting that kind of a slant in some sections of the media? And also, is it by coincidence that India is on a World Press Freedom Day, India is 150th, much below Somalia and Jordan and all those countries? Is this by design or a coincidence? Thank you very much.
Okay, so there are lots of questions here. Human rights commissions generally work on the popular narrative which is shown by the global media. Everybody is let's understand one thing, okay? It's not rocket science. Your profession can be anything, but basically we are all human beings. We work on perceptions. And this entire fight is about creating perceptions and narratives. A narrative has been created that Hindus are majority and therefore they can never be victims. In fact, they victimize minorities. Now, since when this narrative has emerged? Why the word Islamophobia wasn't there when 9/11 happened? It's a recent phenomenon. If you understand, American politics works with lobbying. And I have no shame in saying if you pay $5,000, you can meet any senator. Another few $1,000, he will tweet for whatever reason, doesn't matter whatever it is. If it is not very offensive, he'll tweet in your favor. Pay few $100,000 or $1 million, he'll become your activist. American politics works on lobbying. Few days ago when Elon Musk on Twitter offered to buy Twitter, who was the first person who came out and raised objection? Everybody thought Twitter is an American company. But who was the first person who came out and raised very strong objection? The Prince of Saudi Arabia. Do you know how many $1 million Qatar gives to New York Times? When I was in US, I was told $50 million were donated to New York Times. In our own country, there are few anti-India websites. Who funds them? When you play this kind of Muslim victimization your funding channels become smoother. This is my understanding. I am not saying it's truth, because I know a lot of people would use my words in a different context. This is my understanding, and it is based on experience in USA. So this is the reason United Nations or other human rights organizations say that. Now, the good news, this is the bad news. The good news is, because there was no narrative, there was no imagery. When you say Kashmiri Hindu genocide, there were few clips of Manoj ji on YouTube, which not anybody would go see unless for educational purposes. There was, nobody knew about this collectively. But after the film came, I have been getting call from Geneva. When Pallavi said Geneva, she didn't want to mention it because it's in correspondence. Very soon you will find us standing over there. We have been invited in Netherlands. In Hague, we have been invited by human rights human rights organization. We are going there. They want to see our film, and we are speaking over there. In lots of places, why would British parliamentarians would want to talk to us? Oxford Union. So many people, Shashi Tharoor Saab was there, he spoke over there. Chidambaram Saab spoke over there. So many senior politicians have gone and spoken over there. But not even one of them made a case for India. In fact, they went and reconfirmed the artificial and the fake manufactured fault lines which were created by the foreign media. They went and reconfirmed them because they were upset with the local politics. Everybody cannot be Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I'm sorry to say that, but the questions you asked, basically this is the reason India does not allow lobbying. So our people, our diplomats, they cannot do lobbying. The minute India opens up lobbying, you will find that they will start speaking in our favor. I am not an expert. It's for media people to comment on that. All I know is on that World Press Freedom Day, I was cancelled by the Foreign Correspondents Club.
मेरा नाम चंदन पांडे है, मैं जन की बात की टीम से हूँ। मेरे
कहाँ से?
जन की बात की टीम से हूँ। प्रदीप भंडारी मेरे सीईओ हैं। मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि आपकी फिल्म ने काफ़ी शोहरत हासिल की, अपार सफलताएं आपने हासिल की। लोगों ने बहुत कुछ कहा, किसी ने समर्थन किया, किसी ने विरोध किया, बहुत सारे हेट कैंपेन भी चलाए गए। लेकिन आपका आरोप ऐसे समय आ रहा है जब आपकी आने वाली फिल्म पे अटकलें, दिल्ली फाइल्स जो है उसके लिए अटकलें तेज हो गई है। तो मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि आपके आलोचक जो हैं, जो आपके एंटी वाले हैं, वो ये कह रहे हैं कि आपने जो प्रेस क्लब पे जो आरोप लगाए हैं वो तथ्यात्मक रूप से गलत हैं, और आपने तथ्यात्मक रूप से, तथ्य उनका जो गलत है आपका, वो आपके आलोचक कह रहे हैं, और आपने सिर्फ ये मीडिया में और खबरों में बने रहने के लिए आप ऐसा कहें। आप इस पर क्या कहते हैं?
ये सवाल मुझसे नहीं, उनके प्रेसिडेंट से पूछिए जाके, जिन्हें
आरोप आप पे लगा रहे हैं। तो आपसे जवाब आपसे चाहेंगे।
मैंने आपको सब डाल दिया। अगर आप चाहें तो मैं अभी, जैसे ये खत्म होता है, अपना ईमेल आप लोग अगर दे दें, हमारी टीम के लोग हैं, मैं सारी कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंस, सारे व्हाट्सएप, सारी रिसीट्स, हमने पैसे दिए, रिसीट है हमारे पास, कोई हम हवा में बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, सब जानते थे, दैट्स वाई पीपल आर हियर। तो वो सारा का सारा फैक्चुअल है। और मैंने नहीं, प्रेस फॉरेन कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट क्लब के लोगों ने ही ट्वीट किया पिछले 2-3 दिन में नामों के साथ कि किसने क्या बोला उस मीटिंग में। और मेरे को प्रेसिडेंट साहब ने कैटेगोरिकली 3 नाम लिए थे, न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स, अल जजीरा एंड ब्लूम्सबर्ग। मेरी कोई पर्सनल दुश्मनी किसी से नहीं है, तो आई एम जस्ट कोटिंग व्हाट दे सेड।
The young journalist, yeah, please.
अच्छा, और अगर कैंसिल नहीं किया होता तो आज हम ये मेरिडियन में क्यों कर रहे होते, ये प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस वहीं कर रहे होते ना, उन्हीं के लॉन में। और बल्कि उन्होंने फोर्स करके हमसे बोला कि आपको यहाँ पे कॉकटेल और डिनर करना पड़ेगा। तो हमने बोला हम लोग करते नहीं है ये, क्योंकि मैं तो पीते ही नहीं हूँ, तो हम ये करते नहीं है। पर उन्होंने बोला लेकिन नहीं, फिर आपकी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस फेल हो जाएगी अगर आप कॉकटेल्स नहीं रखेंगे तो इसलिए हमको एक्स्ट्रा पैसे देने पड़े, जो उनको हमें रिफंड करने हैं अभी।
सर हेलो,
पत्रकारों पे नहीं लगा रहा हूँ, प्रेसिडेंट साहब ने जो बोला मैंने वो उनको आपको बताया।
हेलो सर, मेरा नाम ऋषभ अवस्थी है।
मैं आपको वो बता रहा हूँ जो प्रेसिडेंट साहब ने मुझे बोला, तो उनसे बोलिए। सुनिए, मेरे मन में कोई विचार नहीं, मैंने जो तथ्य हैं वो आपको बता दिया।
सर
पत्रकारों का मैं बताऊं, 2 तरह के पत्रकार हैं। मैं अपने विचार बता रहा हूं, मैं अपने विचार, आप मेरे विचार जानना चाहते हैं कि अपने विचार मुझ पे थोपना चाहते हैं?
सर डिबेट नहीं, सवाल पूछो।
मैं डिबेट, देखिए ये 9 PM डिबेट नहीं है, हम लोग बहुत सीरियस इशू पे बात कर रहे हैं। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आज इस दुनिया में पत्रकारिता दो तरह से डिवाइड हो गई है, और मैं ऐसे ही नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, मैं पत्रकारिता का स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ। मैंने अपना पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मास कम्युनिकेशन से किया है, बाद में मैंने एडवर्टाइजिंग ज्वाइन की, तो मैं कुछ जानता हूँ उसके बारे में। तो मैं ऐसे हवा में बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, तो आप भी मुझे उतनी इज्जत दें, डिग्निटी दें जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ उसको। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इस दुनिया में दो तरह की पत्रकारिता हो गई है। एक वो लोग हैं जो फील्ड में जाके तथ्यों को पता करते हैं, सत्य को पता करते हैं और लोगों के सामने फैक्ट्स प्रस्तुत करते हैं, जो एक पत्रकार का काम होना चाहिए। और एक दूसरे तरह के जो पत्रकार हैं वो नैरेटिव पहले क्रिएट करते हैं और बाद में कोई अगर बहुत पूछे तो कुछ फैक्ट्स भी आपके सामने रख देते हैं। ये मेरा अपना पर्सनल विचार है, ये यूनिवर्सल ट्रूथ है, मैं ऐसा नहीं कह रहा हूँ। और अगर आप मुझे जानते हैं कुछ सालों से, मैं वही बोलता हूँ जो मैं जानता हूँ, और मैं किसी को रिप्रेजेंट नहीं करता हूँ अपने अलावा।
नमस्कार
Can I go next?
सर
एक
सर
सेकंड, बहुत देर से जानना चाह रहे हैं।
Yeah, I, Vivek sir, and the entire team, Pallavi ma'am. I'm Sanskriti from Earshot. We're Earshot. It's a podcasting company. So the first thing I want to say is that after a lot of us from my generation, at least, have seen your movie, a lot of people who were on the other side of the realm have moved now and opened their eyes to something that they weren't able to see. So firstly, thank you for that. I want to ask one thing that, first of all, did you think this movie will explode the way it did? It wasn't a very commercial mainstream movie. Nobody thought this movie would do a 200 crore plus. Is that something you ever thought of?
Not at this scale, honestly speaking, but we had faith. If we did not have faith, why would we work for 4 years? We thought, and it is, for us, it was not just a movie, it's a part of a long mission, and we have not stopped. As I talk to you, we are making a docu-series which puts all the sides, all kinds of history and facts together about Kashmir. So we didn't know that it will unite Indians world over the way it did. That I didn't know. I knew that there will be allegations of Islamophobia and all that. इतनी politics मैं जानता हूँ, तो मुझे वो सब पता था, पर मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि लोग इस तरह से एक दूसरे को हक करेंगे और सॉरी बोलेंगे. जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, अमेरिका में कई सारे ऐसे मेरे पास वीडियोस भी हैं जहाँ पे व्हेन द वाइट पीपल और द ब्लैक पीपल आफ्टर सीइंग द फिल्म दे केम आउट, व्हिचएवर इंडियन दे सॉ, दे डिडंट नो कि ये कश्मीरी है या क्या है, उनको ऐसा लगा शायद इंडियंस कोई कश्मीरी बोलते हैं. दे वेंट अप टू देम, हग्ड देम एंड दे सेड वी आर सॉरी.
Yeah, sir, and sir, just one more thing. Just one more thing, because I also do a lot of movie reviews. One thing that I found very strange is that I can still understand the political correspondents or journalists being biased, but people like Anupama Chopra, film companion,
Let's drop
and
it.
others.
It's history now. Let's drop it.
No,
I don't want to go there.
Okay.
It's all out in public. I have spoken about it.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
विवेक सर, पहले तो कश्मीर फाइल्स लॉन्च होने के बाद काफी कश्मीरी पंडित जो उनके परिवार से मिलने का मौका मिला.
कहाँ से हैं आप? क्या नाम?
सर ऋषभ अवस्थी नाम है, ओ न्यूज़ हिंदी डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म में. कश्मीर फाइल्स लॉन्च होने के बाद हम कई कश्मीरी पंडित जो है उनके परिवारों से मिले, तो उनकी तरफ से मैं सबसे पहले आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगा. लगातार वो कह रहे थे कि कभी भी विवेक अग्निहोत्री जी से मुलाकात होती है तो उनको धन्यवाद कहें. और एक मेरा सवाल ये है कि आपकी फिल्म में जैसे एक डायलॉग था कि सरकार तो किसी की भी हो पर सिस्टम हमारा ही रहेगा, तो क्या वो जिस तरीके से आपकी दोनों प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस जो है वो कैंसिल हुई, तो आज के टाइम में और रियल लाइफ में वही दिखाई दे रहा है?
अब आपने कह दिया ये सवाल, मैं क्या जवाब दूं इसका?
सर
एक नो
सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है. आई एम विक्टिम ऑफ genocide. I am Kashmiri Pandit and a victim of genocide myself. I have been thrown out of Kashmir in 1990 and in May I came from Kashmir. अभी भी हमारे बहुत सारे लोग जम्मू में कैंपों में रह रहे हैं और वो बिल्कुल उस सूरत में रह रहे हैं कि उनका मतलब दिस इज़ नॉट ए लाइफ ऑफ ए ह्यूमन बींग्स जिस हिसाब में अभी वो रह रहे हैं. वो हमारे कैंप जगती में है जहाँ पर 5000 फैमिलीज वहाँ पर रह रहे हैं. देयर इज़ नो सैनिटेशन, देयर इज़ नो हेल्थ की केयर एंड द पीपल आर नॉट गेटिंग द इम्यूनिटीज़ विच अ ह्यूमन बीइंग इज डिजर्व. और हमारे वहाँ पर नगरोटा में भी कैंप है, मुट्ठी में भी कैंप है. और मेरा ये सवाल है मीडिया से कि आज तक 32 साल हो गए हैं, आज तक मीडिया कश्मीरी हिंदुओं के बारे में क्यों नहीं बोला? और ये क्या आप बोल सकते हैं ये, जबकि हकीकत जो थी हमारे कश्मीरी पंडितों की, जबकि विवेक अग्निहोत्री ने अपने फिल्म के द्वारा ये जो हकीकत थी कश्मीरी पंडितों के साथ जो जेनोसाइड हुआ है, आप सारे वर्ल्ड ने देखा है। आप कब इंसाफ दिलाओगे हम कश्मीरी पंडितों को? क्योंकि आप यू आर दी पिलर ऑफ द डेमोक्रेसी ऑफ इंडिया। मुझे आपसे उम्मीद बहुत है कि आप जो हमारे लोग जिम्मेदारी करते थे, वहाँ फार्मर्स थे, उनको कोई ना स्टेट ने देखा, ना स्टेट ने उनके साथ कुछ किया, नहीं ना सेंटर ने किया। अब मीडिया पीपल ये मुद्दा कैसे उठाएंगे?
प्लीज,
धन्यवाद।
प्लीज यार, प्लीज डोंट डू दैट। ठीक है, भावनाओं को समझिए सर, थोड़ा भावनाओं को समझिए, ठीक है।
Vivek sir, Rajesh from Delhi 99. Vivek sir, Rajesh here from
Let only media people ask questions.
Vivek sir,
and let it be a question, not a commentary.
विवेक सर, राजेश हियर फ्रॉम दिल्ली 99। सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि आज भी सर अगर हम देखें तो कश्मीर में तो हमारा वाला कश्मीर है, वहाँ तो जेनोसाइड कुछ, क्योंकि आर्मी हमारी वहाँ रुकी है, लेकिन प्रतिदिन डेली वहाँ से दूसरे पार्ट से खबरें आ रही हैं कि हमारे जो माइनॉरिटीज़, हमारे जो हिंदूज़ हैं उनको भी मारा जाता है। 6 गर्ल्स को 2 दिन पहले भी कुछ इस तरह से रेप किया गया और कुछ उनको कन्वर्जन किया जाता है रेगुलर। तो आप क्या कहेंगे? अभी तक ये सिलसिला 32 सालों से रुका नहीं है जो हिंदुओं के ऊपर कश्मीर में चल रहा है, चाहे इस पार्ट में हो चाहे दूसरे पार्ट में, अभी भी जारी है। दूसरा मेरा सवाल सर ये है कि दिल्ली से भी एक आवाज़ जब मूवी चल रही थी तो उन दिनों भी सुनने को मिली कि आपने इतने जो 250 करोड़ कमाने को जो आपकी अर्निंग्स थी उसको लेकर भी सवालिया निशान हमारे सीएम के द्वारा उठाए गए, तो वो काफ़ी शॉकिंग था। उसके बारे में आपसे भी हम सुनना चाहेंगे कि उनको क्या आप रिप्लाई देना चाहेंगे?
नहीं, ये इसका जवाब देने की ज़रूरत भी नहीं है, क्योंकि जो फिल्म बिजनेस को नहीं जानते वो ऐसे इल इन्फॉर्म्ड सवाल कर सकते हैं। फिल्म के जो रेवेन्यूज़ होते हैं पूरे वर्ल्ड के बिजनेस एक ही तरह से होता है। जो आप फिगर सुनते हैं, दीज आर ग्रॉस फिगर। एक्सक्यूज़ मी भाई साहब, यानी आप लोग बात कर लीजिए। या
सर क्योंकि आपने कहा था कि इसका जो अर्निंग है वो कश्मीरी पंडितों के लिए,
देखिए ये हाँ, नहीं एक सेकेंड, मैं नहीं मैं ही देता हूँ इसको सवाल, आपको ज़रूरत नहीं है। देखिए पहली बात तो ये समझ लीजिए कि फिल्म का बिजनेस कैसे होता है, उस पर थोड़ा रिसर्च करना चाहिए। सारी दुनिया में ये जो 250 350 आप सुनते हैं, पहली बात मैं आपको एक अच्छी खबर ये बता दूं, कश्मीर फाइल्स जो है वो पहली, शायद मैं वर्ड यूज़ कर रहा हूँ, पहली ऐसी हिंदी फिल्म है जहाँ पे जी स्टूडियोज़ हमारे बीच में कॉन्शियस डिसीजन हुआ था, उनके यहाँ पे बड़े सीनियर एग्जेक्टिव भी हैं, कि राइट टू जस्टिस पे फिल्म है, एक पैसा जो है वो ऑनेस्टली रिपोर्ट किया जाए। जनरली फिल्म इंडस्ट्री का ये होता है कि 100 आए 150 बताओ, 200 भी बताओ तो चलता है। और जो जैसा पल्लवी जी ने बताया, आप जो ये 350 करोड़ वर्ल्ड वाइड फिगर जो देख रहे हैं, क्योंकि हमारे टिकट्स बहुत सस्ते थे। हमारा टिकट अगर 300 रुपये का था, तो ये साउथ इंडिया की फिल्मों की जो आजकल बात चल रही है वो 1700 रुपये के थे। अगर हमारे 1000 रुपये के होते तो इसका फिगर उनसे कहीं बहुत ज़्यादा होता। भारत में एक जो सबसे सक्सेसफुल फिल्म है उसको 3-3.25 करोड़ लोग देखते हैं। ये दुख की भी बात है, 130 करोड़ लोगों की कंट्री में इतने ही लोग देखते हैं। हमारी फिल्म को लगभग 3 करोड़ लोगों ने देखा है, और जिनकी आज बहुत चर्चा हो रही है कि ये तो इनने दुनिया बदल दी है, उनको 1-1.25 करोड़ लोगों ने देखा है। और मैं चाहूँगा कि कई मीडिया लोगों को फिल्मों के ऊपर रिसर्च करना चाहिए, उसकी साइंस को समझना चाहिए, ताकि जो झूठ चलता है फिल्मों के नाम पे उसको भी आप एक्सपोज कर सकें और उसको फेस वैल्यू पे ना लें।
सर मेरा पहला सवाल रह गया कि जेनोसाइड अभी भी कश्मीर में जो चल रहा है वो
उसका जवाब पॉलिटिशियंस लोग देंगे, मैं उसका नहीं दे सकता हूँ। मैं कैसे दे सकता हूँ उसका जवाब?
सर
जो चल रहा है आपकी आंखों के सामने
सर
है।
एक लास्ट में मैं
इट्स द लॉन्गेस्ट कंटिन्यूअस जेनोसाइड इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी।
सर मैं दिल्ली की मीडिया की तरफ से मैं खुद ही कह रहा हूँ कि आपका धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा, आप और मनोज मुंतशिर जैसे जो दोनों लोग हैं।
गुड इवनिंग सर। सर हाय,
आप बताइए।
Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Ritika Jain. I work with Boom. It's a fact-checking
With?
Boom. It's a fact-checking website. I'm here to fact-check a claim. We have got this message which says that Kashmir Files, the makers of Kashmir Files, have donated 200 crores to the PM Cares Fund. I just want to confirm whether that's true or false.
I mean, if you have any common sense, you can fact-check yourself. I don't have to answer that. Because how can I give 200 crore rupees? Which producer gets 200 crore rupees out of
It's
200
a claim
crore? I mean, this is a very, it's like asking somebody has said, A for apple नहीं होता है, B for apple होता है, आप fact check कर रही हैं इसका। ये कोई बात हुई? 200 करोड़ रुपए जब बिजनेस होता है, it's a gross figure.
So that's a
No, how can, अरे ये सवाल ही नहीं उठता है, आप ये सवाल पूछी क्यों नहीं है?
Because we have
I'm
got a
sorry,
claim and we have to fact check
then you
it.
do your own research. I mean, you don't know how to fact check. I'm sorry. No, what I'm trying to say is, when somebody says 200 crore rupee business, it simply means that the producer will get only 30 or 40% of that, out of which ultimately you will end up getting only 10 or 15% of that. The laws of all business in the world are the same. If you don't know the difference between revenue and the profits, then how, I mean, why should, I mean, ये कैसा fact check हुआ?
विवेक जी, मेरा नाम अशोक श्रीवास्तव है, मैं डीडी न्यूज़ में हूँ।
नमस्कार
नमस्ते सर। जो पीसीआई और जो एफसीसी क्लब को लेकर जो कंट्रोवर्सी हुई, मैंने कल उस पर कार्यक्रम किया था और मैंने उसमें पत्रकारों को ही बुलाया था, लेकिन बड़े दुर्भाग्य की बात है कि प्रेस क्लब ऑफ इंडिया और एफसीसी क्लब की ओर से कोई भी उनके मैनेजमेंट का मेरे शो में आने के लिए तैयार नहीं हुआ। सबने कहा नहीं, हम इस पर बात नहीं करेंगे, जबकि मुझे लगता है मीडिया को और पत्रकारों को ज़्यादा जवाबदेह होना चाहिए, क्योंकि हम दूसरों से भी सवाल करते हैं तो हमें भी सवालों का सामना करने के लिए तैयार होना चाहिए। लेकिन जो पत्रकार एक वरिष्ठ आए थे, जब शो शुरू हुआ तो ब्रेक में उन्होंने बाकायदा प्रेस क्लब ऑफ इंडिया के जो चेयरमैन है, प्रेसिडेंट है, उनको फ़ोन किया और फ़ोन करने के बाद उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि मैंने अभी अभी बात करी और उनका कहना है कि फॉर्मेलिटी पूरी नहीं हुई थी, लेकिन अगर विवेक जी आप फॉर्मेलिटी कभी कर लेंगे तो हम उनको दोबारा प्रेस क्लब दे देंगे। हालांकि इस बीच खबर ये भी आई है कि जो कन्वर्जन नाम की नई फिल्म आई है, उसका भी इसी तरह से जो है लास्ट मिनट पर उसकी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस भी रद्द कर दी गई। तो आपको क्या लगता है कि क्या आप दोबारा मौका लगेगा तो आप जाएंगे वहाँ?
देखेंगे, पता नहीं, कुछ कह नहीं सकता।
गुड इवनिंग विवेक जी एंड पल्लवी जी, कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस आपकी फिल्म के लिए, आपने बहुत अच्छा काम किया। आई एम फ्रॉम समाचार पोस्ट, नीरजा वकील। एक्चुअली आई एम बीइंग द विक्टिम माई सेल्फ, तो आई कैन नॉट डाउट कि आपने जो बनाया वो, क्योंकि वो हमारे साथ बीता हुआ है। और ये अपनी फ्रेटर्निटी में रोज़ ही जो आप फिल्म के लेके जेल रहे हैं, वो अपनी फ्रेटर्निटी में ही मैं उसको आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड, वो मैं खुद ही झेल रही हूँ। तो मेरा ये एक्चुअली, आपने अभी रिसर्च वर्क की बात की, आपने बहुत रिसर्च किया, आई नो इट, क्योंकि मेरा बेटा राहुल वकील KYM में था एंड आपके साथ उसकी इंस्टाग्राम पे काफ़ी चैट हुई, मतलब इट वाज अ टॉक, इंस्टाग्राम टॉक हुआ था। तो मेरा ये है कि अगर आपने अभी बात की कि मुस्लिम्स के साथ भी आपका काफ़ी रिसर्च वर्क था, लेकिन फिल्म में कहीं ना कहीं नहीं टू गिव दम क्रेडिट कि आपने इतना रिसर्च वर्क किया, थोड़ा थोड़ा सबका दे देते। तो मेरा ये था कि आपने फिल्म में थोड़ा सा उनका कुछ, चाहे कास्ट में या कुछ, उसमें आप थोड़ा उनका दे देते। दिस इज़ माई क्वेश्चन।
तो फिल्म सबके, देखिए मैं इसका आपका जवाब ही देना चाहता हूँ, ये मैं गिल्टी नहीं हूँ किसी भी चीज़ का। मेरे लिए हर इंसान एक है, मैं लोगों को मेजॉरिटी और माइनॉरिटी के रूप में नहीं देखता हूँ। जब माइनॉरिटी की इंडिया में बात होती है तो कोई भी जैन, सिख, पारसी लोगों के बारे में सोचता नहीं है। हमारी फिल्म में ओपनली पेन अल्टीमेट जो क्लाइमेक्स सीन है उसमें बोला गया है कि सिर्फ हिंदू नहीं, इसमें जो कश्मीरी मुस्लिम थे, बुद्धिस्ट थे, डोगरा थे, दलित थे, उन गुजर थे, उन सब लोगों को मारा गया है। मैं काहे को डिस्क्रिमिनेट करूं? क्या मौतों में भी जाति और धर्म और मेजॉरिटी और माइनॉरिटी होता है? जिसको मारा गया है वो विक्टिम होता है।
एक्सक्यूज मी सर, विवेक जी, विवेक जी, कैन आई आस्क क्वेश्चन?
हम आराम से करेंगे, सब लोग करेंगे।
Congratulations to all of you. My name is Tripti Nath. I'm an independent journalist. I would like to ask, I think one of the esteemed panelists mentioned that it's a pity that Kashmir doesn't have cinema halls. And at a time when this movie is making a mark globally, this is something that we should really take note of. Isn't it about time that the filmmakers, I mean very influential filmmakers like you, should put some kind of, maybe not pressure, persuade the government to have some cinema halls going? In fact, some states in Northeast also don't have cinema halls.
There's a reason Northeast doesn't have, for logistical reasons, because they don't get enough people to see the film. In Kashmir, people want to see the film, and all the cinema halls were shut down and destroyed. In 1996, one cinema hall opened, but then bullets were fired there, people were killed, and after that no cinema hall is there, and it is for the media to raise these questions about free speech in Kashmir.
Vivekji, good evening. My name is Avinash Agrawal, and I am from a Japanese newspaper. I hope that won't be held against me. So asking a general question, so what do you think about the relations between Hindus and Muslims? How can we improve the relations so that the traditional Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb can be there for all over?
Wonderful question. I'll answer in two parts, and I'll just say what I feel and believe. Number one, on day-to-day life, if you see, there is no problem between Hindus and Muslims. In my film, all Muslims worked. Here, I don't care who's a Muslim, who's a Hindu. I don't judge you that whether a Hindu is asking me a question or Muslim. On day-to-day basis, we intermingle, the diversity interacts with each other, and there's no problem. The problem comes when the narrative builders start categorizing people in terms of majority and minority. You have to know, in India there are 7 or 8 states where Hindus are in minority. In Punjab, 6 are in majority, but in other states they are in minority. It's a complex country. To divide the country on the lines of Western definitions of majority and minority are wrong. The day you stop using the word majority and minority, when we have uniform civil code, when we look at human beings as human beings and not majority and minority, that day there will be no problem, no conflict.
नमस्कार विवेक जी, मेरा नाम पुलकित है, मैं द न्यूज़ 15 की तरफ से हूँ.
कहाँ से?
द न्यूज़ 15. सर, मेरा सवाल तो पहले मैं बाद में बताऊँगा, उससे पहले मैं आपको बधाई देना चाहता हूँ आपकी टीम को. आपने बहुत बेहतरीन काम किया, जिसका नतीजा आप देख पा रहे हैं कि पूरी दुनिया में आपको सराहा जा रहा है, आपकी निर्देशन को सराहा जा रहा है. सर, जिस तरह से आपने एक घोषणा करी कि आप दिल्ली फाइल्स पे फिल्म बनाने जा रहे हैं, तो मेरा सवाल 2 साल पहले की घटनाओं को लेकर है, जो दिल्ली में हमने या पूरे भारत के राज्यों में देखा. अकॉर्डिंग टू अ रिपोर्ट, 1.6 करोड़ पीपल लोगों को पैदल अपने घर जाना पड़ा, जिसमें 81,385 एक्सीडेंट्स रिपोर्ट किए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हाईवे एंड रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट ने, और 8700 ट्रैक पे लोगों की जान गई. तो क्या आपको नहीं लगता कि लॉकडाउन में जो मौतें हुई, जिन लोगों को पैदल घर जाना पड़ा, जिन छोटे छोटे बच्चों को पैदल नंगे पैर तपती धूप में जाना पड़ा, 2 रुपए के पार्ले के बिस्किट खा खा के इनको गुजारा करना पड़ा, उसका भी सच देश के सामने आना चाहिए, उस पर भी एक लॉकडाउन फाइल्स करके एक फिल्म बनानी चाहिए?
हाँ, क्यों नहीं बनानी चाहिए
सर? ये जो मैंने आंकड़े दिए हैं, 1.6 करोड़, 81,385 एंड 8700, इट्स ऑफिशियल डाटा.
हाँ, बिल्कुल बननी चाहिए. अगर कोई बनाना चाहता है, आप बननी चाहिए, क्यों नहीं बननी
क्या
चाहिए?
आप बनाएंगे सर?
मैं
या सिर्फ दिल्ली फाइल्स के अकॉर्डिंग या कश्मीर फाइल्स के अकॉर्डिंग, जो आपकी मूवी का थीम बाकी लोगों के मुकाबले है कि हिंदू मुस्लिम के बेस पर रहता है, उससे हटकर कोई थीम आपकी मूवी की या लॉकडाउन फाइल्स के अकॉर्डिंग बननी चाहिए? क्या बनाएंगे?
फाइल्स में कौन सा हिंदू मुस्लिम था?
कश्मीर फाइल्स.
बुद्धाइना ट्रैफिक जैम में कौन सा हिंदू मुस्लिम? नहीं, वो भी दोनों मेरी ही फिल्म है ना. 4 फिल्मों की बात कर रहे हैं तो 2. और सुनिए मेरी बात, आपके सवाल का जो जवाब है मैं माइक पे नहीं दूंगा, अगले साल 26 जनवरी को आपसे बात करूंगा.
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू.
ठीक है, इसको नोट कर लीजिए, रिकॉर्ड कर लीजिए अपने.
जी सर, थैंक यू.
Vivek ji, my name is Pankaj Yadav, and I also work for a foreign media. I want to know from you, after all this controversy about FCC of South Asia, are you contemplating or are you planning to approach the government of India for any kind of an action against this club? Because your right for freedom of speech and expression has been infringed upon. Thanks.
No, that's not my job, and I am not an activist, media activist or anti-media activist. I have no fight with media. I have nothing against media. I love media. Some of my best friends are from media, and I always go to media institutes and talk very highly about media professionals. I see that how young boys and girls, not just young but middle-aged also, how in heat, in such difficult conditions, they travel all over India at meager salaries, and they get bad name because of few elite studio journalists who basically try to divide the society, and for that all media is being victimized or penalized. So I have great respect for media, but what I think media is not how the world sees media. So it's for somebody else to do it. So if we are done, or if there anybody else?
Sorry.
One more question. Yeah.
Hello. सर नमस्कार, मेरा नाम आशुतोष पांडे है, मैं हिंदुस्तान समाचार से हूँ। सर जब आपकी फिल्म आई उस समय एक बीच में कंट्रोवर्सी शुरू हो गई कि आपको स्क्रीन्स बहुत कम मिल रहे हैं। आपने एक अच्छी फिल्म बनाई है, बहुत सारे अच्छे डायरेक्टर्स अब इस तरह की फिल्में लेकर आएंगे, तो क्या स्क्रीन मिलना ऐसे कम बजट की फिल्मों को क्या वो जर्नी रही, ये इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा जानना चाहूँगा। दूसरी बात सर, इन दिनों आपको देखकर बहुत सारे लोगों का बीपी बहुत बढ़ जाता है या किसी का बहुत घट जाता है, तो आप अपना ध्यान रखें और हमें कुछ अच्छा और दिखाते रहें। शुक्रिया।
देखिए, थैंक यू वेरी मच, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप जो डिम्पल जी मुझसे बोलती हैं और पल्लवी जी बोलती हैं, वो भी आपने बोल दिया तो इनको और ताकत दे दी, अब मेरा जीना दूभर हो जाएगा। पर जहाँ तक स्क्रीन्स की बात है, तो देखिए इस देश में फिल्म अच्छी है कि बुरी, ये फिल्म के ऊपर डिसाइड नहीं होता है, उसमें स्टार कौन है उसके ऊपर डिसाइड होता है। ये स्टार बेस्ड फिल्म इंडस्ट्री है और हम लोगों ने भी एज एन ऑडियंस इनकॉम्पिटेंस को, बैड एक्टिंग को और बैड स्टोरीज को एम्पावर कर दिया है और उनको हम इतना हिट कर देते हैं कि लोगों को लगता है यही सही तरीका है फिल्म बनाने का। तो मुझे किसी से कोई शिकायत नहीं है। ऐसे में मेरी फिल्म में 5-6 नेशनल अवार्ड विनिंग एक्टर्स थे, पर नेशनल अवार्ड विनिंग एक्टर्स की कोई कीमत नहीं है। हम लोग स्टार्स की पूजा करते हैं, तो ऐसे में उसको स्क्रीन ना मिलना कोई बड़े अचंभे की बात नहीं है। लेकिन इस फिल्म की सफलता ने ये तो कम से कम तय कर दिया है कि आगे अगर कोई नॉन स्टारर फिल्म होगी और उसका कंटेंट अच्छा होगा, तो द सो कॉल्ड बॉलीवुड वाले भी 4 बार सोचेंगे उसको कम स्क्रीन्स देने में। तो ये एक पॉजिटिव थिंग भी है। आप पूछना चाह रही थी? यस सर।
I just want to ask. My name is Shyam Malik. I've been making films on terrorism all over the world. I just want to ask one question, maybe to Mr. Kaul more than. Why are Kashmiri Pandits not asking for ITB status, internally displaced person status for themselves? That's my question.
I told you that we went to National Human Rights Commission, asked them that declare genocide of Kashmiri Pandits and also redressal. But then we put second application. That was that we are not basically, because if we see the UN Charter and other things, they won't say we are refugees. We say हम शरणार्थी हैं, अपने ही देश में शरणार्थी है. We are refugees in our own country. But government says that you are migrants. And we say that migrants are basically birds. We are not migrants, we are internally displaced community. And we gave this application to Human Rights Commission because we thought we will say to the government what they will do, but we have done it and even we fought for it. Thank you.
These will be the last 2 questions, so the lady in yellow.
Hi, this is Shrishti Anand from Cinema Beast and my question is for Vivek ji. Vivek ji, आपका अगला प्रोजेक्ट द दिल्ली फाइल्स के बारे में कुछ बताइए।
दिल्ली फाइल्स दिल्ली में जो होता है उसके ही बारे में है, और जो दिल्ली में होता आया है पिछले 100 साल से, और जो जिसकी आशंका है कि कुछ और साल ऐसा होता रहेगा उसके बारे में है। लेकिन मैं दिल्ली फाइल्स के पहले मेरी एक और फिल्म आ रही है जो मैं पहले से बना रहा था, एंड आई डोंट वांट टू बी जस्ट अ बैड न्यूज़ मैसेंजर. My next film is about one of the greatest achievement of humanity, and that achievement is from the land of India. And I promise you, once you see that film, you will be very proud of being an Indian.
The last question, please.
Namaste, namaste Vivek ji, Pallavi ji, and.
कहाँ हैं आप?
Yeah.
Oh, हाँ. खड़ी हो जाएं, दिख नहीं रही हैं आप. I can't see you. Okay, yeah. Now I can see you. Yeah.
You want me to stand?
No, it's okay. Your choice.
Okay, so basically, first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm from Sangam Talks. It's a YouTube channel. And first of all, big thanks to you for this movie. And as they say that art represents reality, and Bollywood is something which portrays reality. But as you mentioned in the beginning of your press conference, that there are films like Mission Kashmir and Fiza and Roja which kind of justify terrorism. and justify the terrorists' acts. So I just wanted to know that why isn't the truth shown till now? And it actually is the kind of interpretation of the director or the producer. That's very sad. So your opinion on that. And secondly, with this film, Kashmir Files, because we've kind of heard that Bollywood is very number driven. And so is there a churn in Bollywood now towards kind of listening to people, what they want and the truth? So what is the churn you have seen?
You don't need a churn in Bollywood. You need a churn in our society. If we start appreciating aesthetics, if we start appreciating art, and we challenge Indian cinema to produce more content-driven cinema, Bollywood or not Bollywood, everything will change. That's my answer. Last question,
Hello.
because I think, yeah.
Hello. Hello, sir. I'm Anushka. I'm from HCN News. So my question is
Which
that
news?
HCN News. So my question is that कि before making a movie, you study a lot, you research a lot, but there are a lot of controversial issues such as Taj Mahal, बहुत सारे और भी controversial issues है. तो क्या आप उन topics को भी touch करेंगे? जैसे कि ताज महल हो गया, गोदरा
और भी
files हो
बहुत
गए.
सारे दुनिया में लोग हैं, मैं अकेला क्या करूँगा?
नहीं सर, हम आपसे जानना चाहते हैं कि आप उन topics को भी touch
No,
करेंगे?
right now I'm already doing a film, and after that I'm doing Delhi Files. I know only that much right now.
Hello, sir. Here. Hello, I'm Vartika from अमर उजाला. मेरा सवाल एज अ डायरेक्टर आपसे पूछना है मुझे, प्रोड्यूसर एंड डायरेक्टर. मुझे ये पूछना है कि सिनेमा में जो अभी चेंजेस आ रहे हैं, अभी बॉलीवुड की फिल्में उतना ब्लॉकबस्टर हिट साबित नहीं हो रही हैं जितनी साउथ की फिल्में हो रही हैं. अगर हम मार्च का डेटा देखें और अप्रैल का डेटा देखें तो कश्मीर फाइल्स ही है जिसने उस डेटा में कंट्रीब्यूट किया है. तो हम किस तरफ जा रहे हैं? मतलब कंटेंट किंग है कि हम आरआरआर की मूवी की तरफ लार्जर देन लाइफ वाला जो फिल्म्स है उसकी तरफ जा रहे हैं?
मुझे तो ऐसा लग रहा है हम कश्मीर की तरफ जा रहे हैं. धन्यवाद, आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. अगर किसी का कोई सवाल रह गया तो मैं अकेले में दे दूंगा. ये सवाल है कि कमेंट्री है? हाँ, आप कहाँ से हैं? अब लोग उठ गए, अपन बात करते हैं. आइए कर. सो आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू वेरी मच. गुड नाइट.